From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Remembering an icon of rural America.
I guess that I know there's a time to be staying and a time to be going.
We pay tribute to the one and only Baxter Black. The complicated milk check, a look at new efforts to overhaul the federal milk marketing orders. As corn planting crosses the finish line, replanting is already on some producers' minds. But is it too late?
That's got to be their priority.
The difficult decision some farmers are facing right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Planting of the U.S. corn crop is finally finished up as farmers are now focusing on finishing up planting soybeans. And USDA putting out new crop progress numbers on Monday. It reports 97% of the corn crop is now planted. That's right in line with the 5-year average. And the condition continues to look promising with 72% of the crop rated good to excellent, down 1% from last week, but 4% better than this time last year. As for soybeans, planting stands at 88%, also matching the 5-year average. 70% of the crop is rated good to excellent. That's 8% better than last year at this time. And cotton planting also nearing an end with 90% of the crop in the ground, 2% ahead of average. Winter wheat harvest running a little behind right now at 10%. The average is 12%. Cool wet conditions this spring have not only slowed planting but created some agronomic challenges for farmers. AgDay national reporter Michelle Rook is here with an update. Michelle.
Clinton, not only is the weather forcing some farmers in the northern Corn Belt to look at prevent plant this year, in parts of the Corn Belt, including the eastern states, there are others facing replant situations. Specifically in states like Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, planting was pushed into May with cool, wet conditions, and the window was very narrow. So farmers planted into less than ideal soils. That created some emergence issues.
Most of the replants that were in our area in southern Michigan, northwest Ohio, northeast Indiana, all related back to crusting issues where they just couldn't get out of the ground. So maybe they did initially germinate, but then just weren't able to get up. So I would say that was a majority of ours. And in some areas, depending on when you planted, how much got planted in that first window, some of them, there was a fair amount of replants, maybe 20, 30%. Maybe other areas, maybe only 10 or 15%, but it just really went back to those conditions. But certainly crusting was a big problem.
The last planting date for crop insurance is also passed for many crops, even soybeans in the northern states. So farmers are faced with prevent plant decisions as they lose 1% of their coverage every day after those dates. From an agronomic standpoint, Bauer says farmers can still plant late and achieve average yields, but the key is, can the crop make it to maturity before the first frost date?
That's got to be their priority, is looking at those maturity groups that are available to them, what they can get, and make sure they feel comfortable doing some of those calculations. We got really good, history. You look at the last 5 years of data on, okay, if I plant on June 10th or if I plant on June 15th, from that date, how many heat units do I need to get to the end, and see, okay, under a 5-year average, is that going to happen or is it not?
Bauer says prevent plant decisions need to be based on each operation. For instance, for producers that need feed for livestock, that's going to trump yield considerations. With the current market prices, there's definitely more incentive this season for farmers to plant later this spring versus take prevent plant, and the same is true for replant situations.
A wildfire in Southern California has grown to almost 1,000 acres. The fire broke out in Angeles National Forest Saturday evening. At last check, it was only about 5% contained. Now, officials are knocking on doors to alert some residents of a mandatory evacuation order. An evacuation center has been set up for small animals and livestock. The cause is not yet known, but that area is in severe drought right now. The heat is on in the Central Plains and Midwest, with some areas seeing triple digits in the first heat wave of the season. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us with more. Matt.
Yeah, Clinton, that's right. We've got very warm, very humid conditions really across the eastern half of the country. And you take a look at this map right here. These are the low temperatures as you head through the morning. Chicago, St. Louis, down to Tulsa, Dallas in the 80s as we head through the morning. But look at the afternoon temperatures. We're going to be dealing with temperatures in the 90s and even triple digits for highs across the center of the country, even up into the Midwest and parts of the Ohio Valley there and even into the Great Lakes. So a lot of heat, a lot of humidity out ahead of this storm system. And here's a look at the high temperatures here across the upper Midwest. 97 in Minneapolis, Cedar Rapids at 97 as well. 99 here in South Bend, 99 down in St. Louis as well. But this is just the temperature. You factor in the higher humidity, it's going to feel closer to about 110 degrees. And this heat's not going anywhere. It's going to stay hot and humid. This is Friday. Big ridge coming back into the middle of the country. So it looks like it's going to keep that heat and humidity with us as we head through this week and potentially again next week as well. We'll have more coming up on your forecast in just a little bit.
The EPA says it will distribute $60 million to 12 states that have waterways that flow into the Mississippi River. Now, it's an effort to reduce nutrient pollution in the Gulf of Mexico by 20% by the year 2025. Now, that money comes from the infrastructure law that President Biden signed back in November. AgriTalk spoke with the EPA Assistant Administrator for Water. She says will be distributed over the next 5 years to the states you see here.
Each of the states have developed nutrient strategies and have ambitious projects that they're investing in. And so progress is being made watershed by watershed. You know, there's multiple inputs that create that dead zone. But what I can say is that with this $60 million, we're going to be able to rapidly scale up the projects that are happening in these 12 states. And I think we're going to be able to achieve the goal that we have set together as a task force to reduce nutrient pollution by 20% by 2025.
Now, Fox says the work done in the past 2 decades shows how investing in practices such as cover crops and on-farm wetlands improves water quality, soil health, and on-farm productivity. And it looks like consumers are loving cotton again post-pandemic. USDA says cotton use rebounded last year, up nearly 30% to nearly 10 billion pounds. Now, that's the highest in 13 years. Researchers say the recovery coincided with the rebound of the economy following the onset of the COVID pandemic in 2020. That's when retail cotton use tumbled to its lowest point in more than 25 years. In addition, the U.S. per capita estimate of retail cotton usage increased to nearly 30 pounds in 2021, the highest amount since 2010. But despite the great numbers, global economic expansion of cotton is projected to moderate this year, and the growth rate in retail cotton usage is expected to slow. Markets starting the week with heavy pressure. We'll dig into why and what's ahead coming up next in analysis. And later, we pay tribute and give thanks for the one and only Baxter Black.
Find farm equipment on Machinery Pete's June 21st online auction. No reserve, no buyer fees. Start bidding now at auctions.machinerypete.com.
Land sales continue to set records right now. The latest is a sale at $25,000 an acre for cropland. Jim Rothermich of Iowa Appraisals says the land is located in northwest Iowa's Plymouth County. He reports the sale had no influence from development or wind energy. Now, Rothermich says dollars per tillable corn suitability rating acres in the county have increased more than 35% over the past 6 months. Meanwhile, new tractor and combine sales seem to be cooling off. According to the Association of Equipment Manufacturers' monthly flash report, the sale of all tractors last month in the U.S. were down 14% from the same month last year. Now, for the month, two-wheel drive smaller tractors were down 16%, while 40 and under 100 horsepower were also down 16%. On the year, two-wheel drive smaller tractors are down 17%, while larger four-wheel drive tractors are down 13%. Combine sales in May were down 13% from last year as well. Now, so far this year, they're down 14%. A heavy sell-off in stocks adding to pressure across the commodity board with soybeans trading more than 30 cents lower. Michelle Rook has more on what happened and where markets will start today.
Joining us with market analysis, Mike Zuzolo with Global Commodity Analytics. Tough down day on Monday, everything down but hogs, but certainly a risk-off mentality in these markets, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was, Michelle. And I think part of this goes back to a risk-off mentality, in part because China, and they're the demand bull. They've been the demand bull the last 10 or 15 years. And I think that demand bull is really more of a question mark, probably as much as it's been any time that I can remember in the recent history. And this goes back to those COVID policies, those zero COVID policies that reportedly Shanghai has reinstituted. And I think this is where the outside markets, the sharply higher dollar, the dollar that's going up in the spot index upwards of the highest level since 2007, 2002, depending on which chart you're looking at, the 2-year bond yields, which are rallying to almost 3.25 plus percentage points. In the Federal Reserve meeting coming up this week, these things matter a lot more, I think, because the question mark about China's demand is so much in the mind of traders right now.
Yeah, that Fed meeting Wednesday, Thursday, what are we expecting in terms of the rate hike that we're going to have the Fed come out with, Mike?
Excellent question, because it changes almost by the hour. The consumer price index really laid the groundwork on Friday for the trade wondering whether we wouldn't get a full percentage point increase on this Wednesday's meeting, and that would be truly historic. I don't think it's going to be at that point. I think a 0.5 point to 3/4 is the top end, but I think then the trade is probably going to look at producer prices and say, does the Fed have to get aggressive again in July? And I think this is where the train continues to run with that stronger dollar and the weaker emerging market currencies. The Japanese yen's down to its lowest level, I think, since 1998, if I remember right, Michelle. And even commodity currencies like the Australian dollar is getting hit really hard by the U.S. greenback. So these are the types of things that have really caught the attention of the market almost solely and completely. And even the weather market that we talked about Friday afternoon seemed to take a back seat, if you ask me, on Monday.
Yeah, so let's talk about weather, because obviously Monday there was some belief that we were going to have favorable crop conditions in the report, but do you think that that is going to be the sentiment with this high pressure ridge that's building in?
Yeah, good question, because it's a market, I think, where we saw Monday the bear spreads working. They were a little bit more respectful of the new crop corn, the new crop beans. So I do think they're trading a little bit of weather by the spreads, but with this humidity and these daily showers coming in, popcorn type showers, and no real hot, dry ridge forming yet on either of the models from what I can tell, I don't think the trade's ready to buy into a 2012 type scenario yet. Now, if that is something that would change in the course of this week, maybe by Friday or early next week, I think as you get closer to the July 4th holiday, that's maybe where you start thinking more about the La Nina bull stepping back in and the weather bull coming back in to try and take a shot at the long side.
Thanks so much, Mike Zuzolo with Global Commodity Analytics. Our full analysis on agweb.com. More AgDay coming up.
Well, we've got our first heat wave of the season. It's here, and we are feeling it across the eastern half of the country, really from the Rockies on to the East Coast. We got temperatures, you can see them right here, in the triple digits all the way up into Minneapolis as we head through this afternoon. Temperatures very warm, very humid towards the east, and yeah, we could be in the triple digits, but then you factor in that higher humidity and it's going to be feeling closer to 110, 115 degrees in some parts of the country here, especially where you see those reds and pinks back in the center part of the country there. So very warm and humid this afternoon. Notice the low temperatures. Watch this as we head towards tomorrow morning. In the 60s, 70s, even close to 80 degrees there. And then it gets hot again. We've got triple digit heat again on as we head into Wednesday, and still dealing with those humid conditions, making these numbers feel 5 to 10 degrees warmer than what you're seeing there on the map, and triple digits potential all the way over towards the coast of North Carolina. So this, as we head through the next couple of days, that ridge in the east, it sticks around, but then eventually we get almost a second ridge building back into the center of the country, keeping it very warm, very humid into this upcoming weekend. And then eventually it looks like that will slide eastward just a little bit more, keeping it very warm, humid, and very dry as well Unsettled, though, in the northern plains there and into the upper Midwest, as well as back into the Pacific Northwest. And then we could see some more activity there in the East Coast with a couple of different systems. But here's the severe threat for Tuesday. A couple of storms along a cold front there in the upper Midwest back towards the plains, and then more showers and storms here along the East Coast and into the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast. A chance for some small hail, some damaging wind gusts are possible. And that's with this system here. There's that cold front right there. And then as we head towards the east, you've got these kind of upper level showers and storms that will likely start to form and kind of move on through the area. Through the center of the country, though, not much is going on. It's going to be sunny, but it's going to be hot and humid. And then we're going to see, again, that chance for those storms to continue to move eastward. Not a lot of precipitation here, but we will be kind of watching those storms drift off to the east coast as we head towards the second half of the week. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Mansfield, Pennsylvania, scattered showers possible, a high of 77 degrees. South Bend, Indiana, dangerous heat and humidity, a high of 100 degrees. And heading back to Memphis, Tennessee, a high of 98 with dangerous heat and humidity likely.
Milk prices are back in record territory. We'll tell you how high coming up next. And later, saying goodbye is never easy, but cherishing the memories, wit, and wisdom of Baxter Black never gets old. A tribute to our friend Baxter in the country.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
This year could be one for the record books when it comes to milk pricing. According to the May 2022 National Milk Producers Federation Dairy Market Report, this past March marked the highest ever U.S. monthly average all milk price at $25.90 per hundredweight. That beat the previous record high set in September of 2014 by 20 cents. Now, there have only been 4 times in history when the monthly all milk price climbed above $25, and the other 3 all happened back in 2014. But dairy producers know the cost of feed and many other inputs are putting a bit of a damper on those higher milk prices right now. Now, as Farm Bill discussions continue in the Ag committees, some dairy groups and industry experts are submitting proposals to overhaul the federal milk marketing orders. Dairy economist Marin Bozic says change is needed to provide more equity for dairy producers across the U.S. He says where the federal milk marketing orders work well is part of the country where there's a lot of fluid milk produced, like the Northeast and Southeast. However, the complex pricing system currently puts the Midwest at a pricing disadvantage.
For us here in the upper Midwest, we have to focus on long-term solutions that reflect the fact that we don't have a lot of fluid milk. We are mostly cheese country.
Now, he's proposing sweeping changes, including a milk check transparency report, so that producers can understand their milk check and how their product is being priced versus other areas of the region. Bozic says the rules also need to mandate fairness in milk contracting to help the industry better manage risk. This is just one of several proposals in the industry. Coming up, we pay tribute to a man who could paint such a vivid picture of rural America, all with his words and a knowing smile. Next in the country.
It's time to sign up for the 2022 United Pork Americas Conference in Orlando, Florida. Register today at UnitedPorkAmericas.com and join us September 7th through the 9th.
We end our newscast today with heavy hearts, but hearts that are filled with wonderful memories of a life well lived and one that touched so many in the ag community. Baxter Black, cowboy poet, storyteller, and vet, passed away over the weekend. The Black was 77 years old. He started out as a large animal vet, but later found his calling writing and performing poetry and stories, many based on real-life experiences, often finding humor in unusual circumstances. He made appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, NPR, and on Farm Journal's U.S. Farm Report. He wrote a weekly column and also published several books as well as recorded audio books, and I saw firsthand how he drew large crowds at numerous ag events he attended over the years. He just had a way of connecting with people. I am so glad I got the chance to connect with him as well. He was, as they say, the real deal, making friends wherever he went. He would say his life was blessed, but we were also blessed because he was in our lives. Thank you, Baxter. And that's all of our time this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spend a little bit of time with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day on Farm Country.